and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And I am delighted to welcome back John Gilbert. Hello, John.
Hi, Anna. Away we go again.
Away we go again. And just in case you missed the first time that I had John on the show or can't remember, he is one of the co-founders of the Community Assemblies of the British Isles. And they are very busy helping people set up local groups in communities in order, which then help everyone towards, I guess, a goal of personal sovereignty in various ways. Is that a fair summary of the vast amount of work that you do, John?
It's a help.
Perfect, absolutely. And so now, one of the reasons why I really like your group, aside from encouraging people towards independence and sovereignty, is that you place a great emphasis on developing spirituality. Mm-hmm. And at the core of what your group stands for is this idea that we must take responsibility for our own thoughts and our own actions. And that means our own energy and frequency. So maybe it would be good to explain what a spiritual frequency is.
Okay. I'll take a back step a little bit, because there are two ways that we can work towards our own paradigm. And that is through physical means, so that we're going to go out there and we're going to protest, and we're going to form our own groups and assemblies, and we're going to challenge any fraud because we're signed up to natural law. So it's up to us to tackle fraud. But the spiritual side is equally as important. And if we don't combine both of them, we're actually not going to get to the rung on the ladder that we want. So spiritual frequency is very, very important to get that right. And we've got to realize that when we, now it's not so much, some people say to me, oh, love is everything. It's pretty good, but the one that triggers everything is compassion, and it's been scientifically proven that we have the ability to affect everything around us. Let's call it the divine matrix, because it has been called the divine matrix before, but everything around us is filled with energy, and every space around us is filled with energy, and we can plug into that energy. And when we plug into that energy, our DNA is the key to accessing that energy. And our DNA doesn't get activated through thought, it gets activated through feeling. So our emotions, such as love, such as forgiveness, such as compassion, triggers that DNA. And that is the key to unlocking the divine matrix. And we plug into that. So when we plug into that, we can then think our way into new reality. But we have to have the emotion first.
And I think it's especially important as we look through history, and we see how throughout time there have been different attempts to create, let's say, utopia.
Yeah.
No, one person's utopia is another person's hell. And when we fail to have our hearts in this, when it's driven by ideal without heart, i.e. compassion or love, this is where we stop listening to one another, we stop collaborating, and here comes utopia crashing in a ball of flame. So this is really important, because if we're really serious about creating a better world, then it means that we have to move forward with the greatest integrity. And in order to achieve that, we have to deal with our own personal insecurities, our own personal demons. Because if we don't, our well-meaning actions are going to be driven by the wrong emotion, the emotion of fear. And you can see it out there. One could argue that certain people who've been behind certain medical procedures might have started off with an intention to make the world a better place. But any time that natural law is not followed, any time that the integrity of another person is not respected, because we believe that we have the only answer and the only way forward, it means that we have lost integrity and we are being driven by fear. The desire to control is driven by fear. The lust for power is a desire for control. It's driven by fear. So this is why it's so important that if we are wanting to envisage a better world, that we clean up our act individually. And that does mean looking at our darker emotions. And I think we would call that emotions of lower frequencies. So at the heart of this would be fear, would be a fear of not being loved, experiences of abandonment. So all the stuff that I help people with as a therapist is holding each and every one of us back from fulfilling our higher purpose. And the more we move towards that individually, the more we are able to do collectively.
Mm-hmm. Keep going, Anna. You're doing well.
Well, you did ask me to pitch in, did you not? So what I want to ask you then is, quite aside from seeking therapy, what else can people do to cultivate higher frequencies?
From helping people out, because I help people myself, and from going through things and helping people myself, I've been able to observe, because I can pick up frequencies. I can observe their frequency levels. Now, I can get people in who have sort of medium rate frequencies. Most people, very few people have low frequencies. If they have low frequencies, I'm sorry, they're on the other side. But most people have sort of medium rate frequencies now. Some have very high frequencies. But that's not the end of it. Those people, even with high frequency, if you take them through sort of cleansing, where you're opening up the channels, because if you've got fear down in the lower channels, if you open up the channels, that energy can move up. So in allowing the energy to move up and open the channels up, I can feel their frequencies. They're going up like a rocket, some of them. I have to slow them down, because it's like unleashing something which is inner within themselves. And I've even had people say that that's been the first good night's sleep that they've had in ages. Well, I can put anybody to sleep, let's face it. But they don't nod.
I'm nodding, I'm laughing.
So I can feel their energies going up, and sometimes they're just going to extreme levels where their spiritual frequencies just keep on going until, and we talk about frequencies, and that's a frequency, until I can't detect a frequency. Literally a straight line. And that is the ultimate goal, I think, is where you just don't have a frequency at all. All you have is a sort of straight line graph. That's it. That's you. You've reached as high as you can go. And one of the things that we can do with that, one of the things that will trigger people to reach that is service to humanity. So if you can serve humanity, that affects your frequencies. And when it affects your frequencies, it affects your emotions. When it affects your emotions, it affects your DNA, and your DNA is able to receive far more information from the divine matrix than it was originally getting. So it's, your frequencies play a key point, a key starting point for everything else. And here go the hands again, sorry.
I think we can forgive the hands. So if we're thinking then about service to humanity, it doesn't mean that people have to be volunteering their time, because many people can't. They just don't have the time. They're as short of time as others are short of money, and sometimes they're short of both. Very often they're short of both. But what we're really talking about is, I think, coming back to the word you used earlier, is compassion. So it's about that ability to act with compassion towards others. It's about understanding that if somebody isn't being very nice in that moment, it could be just as simple as giving them the benefit of the doubt as a human being, instead of automatically being judgmental and thinking, okay, well, clearly you're not in a very good place at the moment, and sending them maybe a prayer or a wish for help for them to come along. So that mere thought of compassion could be considered service to humanity, but it could be as simple as just smiling at the person who is walking towards you and looking a bit glum. So it's those small acts of kindness, which we could also say are of service to humanity.
If anything evokes fear, if you're afraid of somebody knocking on your door and asking for money, if whatever you're afraid of, if you put those fears aside. Now, when you go through the Kundalini experience, fear disappears. All you get is this beautiful sense of peace. And that allows you to do far more. It gives you more energy. It allows you to do far more than you did before. So all of this, now, not every Kundalini, the Kundalini awakening that people go on about can suddenly hit you.
So this is where it would be good to define what a Kundalini experience is.
Yeah, it's awakening up. It's when fear and all the lower emotions disappear from you. It's no longer there. You feel nothing but compassion for other people. You want to help other people. You want to do things. You feel lighter. Even the light changes. The light that's into your eyes changes. There's something different about it. You get more light in. It doesn't happen all in one go, but just the start of it does. It happens very quickly. It can happen in seconds, but you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know why it's going to happen. Nobody seems to know what triggers it, but some sort of state of mind where you've pretty much lost all your fear anyway seems to be part of it. So people that have no fear, they seem to be the ones that triggers.
So I've spoken to many yoga practitioners on this channel, and very often they talk about the Kundalini experience happening whilst they're in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that that might not always be the case, that it could happen in different circumstances?
Mine happened walking across a beach. Nothing particular. Just walking across the beach, and that's it. It was there. It doesn't, mind you, you can meditate walking, you can meditate running. Meditation doesn't mean you're sitting still there with a blank mind. It can mean many things to many people. So you can be sitting there getting loads of information coming in. I'm absolutely appalling at meditating, because as soon as I try to clear my mind, everything goes, way, we've got some room, and there we go. And I can't stop it coming in. So my mind's going everywhere. So it's much better for me to work than it is to sit there quietly and try to pretend I'm meditating, because I'm just not. Everything's going everywhere. So yeah, the Kundalini experience, when it happens, you know there's nothing to replace it. Perfect peace comes out of it. Whether you can say that's love, I don't know, because I think it's a different definition.
Well, different people have different definitions of love.
Yeah.
So very difficult to ascertain if one person's vision of love is the same as another's, unless we start taking the meaning apart and asking, what do you mean specifically by, how do you define love? How do you define love? And seeing whether the two marry up. But I just want to take you back there, because, you know, you were talking about it could happen when you're walking on a beach. So I'm wondering whether the common denominator for this would be a moment in which an individual feels unity with something. We could call it divinity, we could call it nature. Would that be a trigger? Is that the common denominator?
I think you've got to slip into something, and I do know that you've got to be well underway to getting rid of all the lower energies. Actually, there's I think it's Dr. Joe Dispenza, is it? He's got an exercise which he does, which is actually very good. And what you do is you clench your butt together, you clench your stomach, you push down hard, and that causes a compression in your lower energy centers. And then you visualize, you hold your breath, push hard, and you visualize the energy moving up through the spine and up to the to your pineal gland.
So it's reminding me of a toothpaste tube. You're squeezing the energy. You're turning your body into a toothpaste tube, and you're squeezing the energy up. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it does. We do that anyway, because throughout the day we're circulating the spinal fluid, which is going up and down through our body. I think it's twice a day that it changes. But what he's doing is, with that, it's actually accelerating it, and you're getting more changes. But it's pushing the power by that visualization. It's pushing the power up to your pineal gland, and your pineal gland is a sort of it's a transmitter and receiver all in one. If somebody walks into a room and you feel their presence, they're transmitting very strongly. If you're receiving what people are calling downloads, I don't like that word, but if people are receiving downloads, that's coming through your pineal gland. Your brain then has to make sense of it and sort it all out afterwards. But I prefer to just let it go and let the emotions sort it out. And everything is in line with emotions. And that day on that beat, everything, the emotions were just calm. Everything was just beautifully calm. And then it just suddenly kicked in.
Wonderful. So here I am listening to this this conversation, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's all very well, but let's imagine I'm operating at this higher frequency and everything is la 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 la. How am I going to be able to go to work and take care of the children, walk my dog, and do all the million things that need to be done if my mind is on a different level?
That's your mind that's on a different level. You can pull your mind up and down as much as you like. It's your emotions that control everything, and your emotions can stay the same. So you can still, you walk into your work and you can still say good morning to everybody. You know, make somebody a cup of coffee. No, you don't want to drink my cup of coffee. That's for sure. But you can feel the same way towards everybody in there, and you can increase the frequencies of the room through your emotions. Your mind can be on your work. So the two need to be sort of separated out. But at the same time, it's sending signals to your brain anyway. So it does calm your brain down.
They do. And I think we have to remember that if we're talking about, if we're defining this experience, this awakening experience, as a feeling of calm, which means a state in which we are free from fear, that is like getting an energy boost. Mm-hmm. Because fear and anxiety and depression drain us. They take our energy away. So if you're very tired because you're worried about everything, then this actually drains your energy. And it also has the detrimental effect of closing down neural pathways in the brain. So you could almost say your brain shrinks quite literally, or your brain capacity shrinks. So cultivating this ability to be in a calm state is a huge benefit, because it will increase your creativity as well. That's the other thing. If you are out of fear, then you are able to solve problems because you can see possibilities that you never saw before. And you're also connecting with energies outside of yourself that are positive. So if you want to cultivate a relationship with loved ones who are in spirit, if you want to cultivate a relationship with spirit guides, whoever it is that you believe, whether it's Jesus, whoever it is, when you are in that calmer state, it makes it easier to have that connection and then to find the help that's needed to get you out of those difficult circumstances. So it is very much to all of our advantages to seek to take a step back from what is absolutely making us not sleep at night and anxious and dragging us down, and take a breath and just, even if it's just to say, I don't know how I'm going to resolve this, so I just need to ask a higher order for help, even if it's just that, and then say, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. That could be a beginning. We all begin in some way. That might be a beginning if you're going really, really struggling. But it might be that you seek to have therapy, or it might just be that you do one small thing, and that one small thing is you're going to smile at yourself in the mirror. Because when we smile, we are automatically releasing feel-good hormones. So it feels inane, it feels ridiculous, because it's the last thing we feel like doing. But when we do that, immediately we're already training ourselves towards a place where we can feel good. So this is very important at an individual level. So here we are working towards raising our own personal frequency by being as kind and helpful to others and to ourselves as possible. How does being on a higher frequency help the world?
That's where you connect into we'll call it for the moment the divine matrix. You're connecting into that energy field, and as you connect into that energy field, so your wants, your feelings get uploaded into it, or DNA becomes a key, and that key plugs into the divine matrix. So when you upload what you want, what you visualize, so if you want a world, so if you're feeling at peace now and you want to be in a world that's permanently like that, and if you upload that, it starts to bring it down towards you. It's like there's a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. You know, we tend to sort of keep it down and say, okay, well, we've got 3D, we've got 4D, we've got 5D, there's 6D. No, there's an infinite number of dimensions. What you've got to do is actually find the one that you want, and that's purely by transmitting your feelings for what you want this this reality to be, and those feelings go out there. Now, one of the things that I've started to learn now is that you don't just feel that want this peace and harmony. It's too wishy-washy. So I've started now visualizing the little cottage that I want, and the cottage garden that I want, and the little lane outside, and being able to greet friends and say hello, and having friends in for, I won't say in for drinks because I don't drink at all, but you know, okay, orange squash. We want friends around. We want to work in order to help others, but we also want to work in such a way that we feel satisfied ourselves. So there may be something which you want to do, really want to do. It might not be the job you're doing at the moment, but it might be something that you really want to do and to excel at. And that's part of your world as well. So you start filling in all the little details. And when we're reaching out for that reality, all those little details sort of get mixed up, and it actually starts to form a reality and into us, or we move towards it. I'm not sure which way yet. I'll let you know when I get there.
Well, you know, as a hypnotherapist, there are different elements to this that we can say on a very practical level. So hypnotherapy is one of the ways in which it works is through visualization. So being in a very relaxed but alert state, so that you are relaxed but your brain is alert and you are visualizing. So why is this relevant? It's relevant in a number of ways. Firstly, coming back to what you were saying about the importance of stating what you want, and it's having the positive vision. Because, for instance, you know, training as a hypnotherapist, one of the things that was first taught to us was don't use negatives. So even if you are saying don't be afraid, what the subconscious will seize on is the word afraid, and it won't recognize the don't be, it will recognize the be afraid. So it's very important that we are specific in the language that we use. So for instance, it's an absolute habit now to me when I'm wanting to remind someone of something to avoid the words don't. So instead of saying don't forget, I will say, do remember, do remember. So already you're putting your mind in a certain position. So that's very important. And then when you're talking about the image, well, we use, in sports, what are people doing? A lot of them have sports therapists or sports psychologists working with them. What are they doing? They are training them to visualize success. Business people all over the world do this. They have people in to help them to visualize their end goal. So in a sense, that's exactly what, well, in every sense, that's exactly what we're doing. But what we're saying is this has an important effect on the mind, yes, but it also feeds in to the overall energy that is being generated in the world. And I think this links in with that whole business about law of attraction. Because if we are visualizing what we would like instead of what we would not like, so if we're busy saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want it's right back to that language that I was talking about, that in hypnosis, what the brain is seizing on is the actual emotive energy of that statement. So I don't want war translates to conflict. It's reinforcing the idea that there is conflict. So what we want to do is say peace. Okay, now, and you were talking about being more specific. What does that look like? Let's work on that image. What does peace look like? It means that I am listening more carefully to those around me to understand them better, so that I'm avoiding situations that are where we are conflicting, not because I'm keeping my mouth shut and not saying anything, but because I'm actively listening and working to better understand their point of view. So I don't react. I don't feel that reaction in the way that I used to, and therefore have to combat and go into conflict. Okay, maybe that's what that means. Maybe that's what it means. But maybe it means something else. Maybe it means finding people who are peaceful and who want a collaborative world like I do, and working together to achieve something. So it could mean different things, but what we're saying is be very clear on the vision, visualize it, because it will happen. And I've seen this so often as a therapist when I'm working with people and we peel back whatever is hindering them from feeling joy or happiness. They're trapped in depression, they're trapped in anxiety, and we peel it back, peel it back, peel it back. And we have now a vision of what we would like. And we're rehearsing that vision in hypnosis. And then they go away and they're rehearsing, and amazing things happen. So there's an interaction here between what they're expecting, and somehow the world comes and meets it. So yes, it is important that we are feeding those positive images into the world. So I like what you said there.
Well, you will actually come across this yourself, haven't you? That one of the ways that doctors can treat people is to actually visualize their patients in a world where they don't have that particular disease or whatever it is. They visualize them without that. And it's actually been recorded. People have recorded this. In China, they used 3 physicians around a patient, and the 3 physicians actually visualize that patient without that disease. And if it's a tumor or something like this, you can actually see the tumor disappearing as they're working on it, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yes, I've seen some footage of that being tracked,
Yeah.
with the healing that's going on through visualization. So this is very, very powerful. Now, you did some lovely exercises with me recently when I was going through a very difficult time to help me clear my own energy. And I think it would be good to describe one of them, so that people might be able to perhaps do a little bit of, or take that and expand it or do it themselves.
Okay, we'll give it a go. Let's take the easiest one to start with, which is directly to your pineal glands. First thing is you've got to realize where your pineal gland is. A lot of people think it's the third eye and therefore it's up here. It's not, it's at the back of the head, at the top of the spine, and towards the back of the spine. So you sort of get onto there and feel it, and feel that's where it is. So what we do now is we turn our eyes, our inner eyes, because you can't make these eyes go around 180 degrees, but you turn your inner eyes back towards and visualize where your pineal gland is. And it is a sort of little bit thicker at one end than it is at the other end. It's a sort of grayish color, and it doesn't matter too much what the size of the thing that you visualize, because it is very, very small. But just look at the pineal gland itself, and as you look at the pineal gland, just see it growing hairs. And as you see the hairs getting longer and longer, and you then see at the bottom, underneath the hairs themselves, you see 4 feet emerging. And as you see the 4 feet emerging, you see on the nearest one a tail. And then at the far end, you see these 2 little pointy ears. And the whole thing, that you see the head moving around towards you and looking at you with those big, beautiful black eyes. And it's looking so sorry for itself. That pineal gland is looking so sorry for itself. You suddenly realize that it's a Scottie dog. That's exactly what you want there. It looks at you and then it dawns on you. That little Scottie dog is soaking wet. And what happens when a dog is soaking wet? You need to stand back, because it starts at the head and the shake goes all the way down through the body and ends up at the tail. Just visualize that shake and try to feel it inside your mind. And it might take a little bit of a few goes to do it, but actually feel it shaking in there. Now, if you do that a couple of times, you don't have to do it very often, but what you're doing is the pineal gland is full of crystals. And those, it's a piezoelectric crystal generator. Those crystals, if they're beautifully aligned, if the pineal gland itself is all clear, then it operates way, way more efficiently, and you can actually just feel it shaking itself. That poor little dog is going to remain soaking wet for the rest of its days. But you know, I wondered why at first it had to grow hairs, because when I was given this visualization, I have no idea. I just had to describe what was in my head. But it seems that the pineal gland does have hairs. It just doesn't have the ears or the tail or the feet.
Yeah.
But you can add those on. That's artistic license. It could be autistic license as well.
I'm just thinking about many of my clients, because we've been using the word visualize and all the way through this. And I want to reassure those for whom actual visualization is extremely difficult, and there are a number for whom it is entirely impossible. So I would like to use the word visualize with imagine. So you might not see it. You might not be able to see this image of what you want life to be, or your pineal gland, or whatever it is, but you can imagine. And different people will imagine in a different way. For some, it is visual. For a substantial number, it is not. But you can imagine a wet dog shaking. You might not see it, but you have memories of seeing it happen. So draw on your memories and draw on the feeling that you have when it happens. So imagine that you are that dog. How would it, and it's wet, how would it feel to be shaking all the water off? So what you're doing at that point is you are sending a message to your brain, even though you can't actually see it, that this dog, which you are using as a symbol for your pineal gland, is shaking off anything that it doesn't need so that it can function at its best. So you can substitute the dog with anything that works for you. It could be anything that works for you. So the idea here is engage your imagination, because irrespective of whether you are visual in the way that you imagine or not, you are going to have an imagination. And so many people say to me, I can't imagine. Yes, you can. The minute you are projecting an outcome into the future, that is imagination. And many of us excel at fearful imagination. In fact, I think most of us excel at projecting negative outcomes. That's why we are anxious. That's why we are fearful, because we are imagining the worst outcome, or that something is going to happen that it's the thing we fear most. Use that instead to imagine a positive outcome, because that is your imagination working. When you say, I know what's going to happen, actually, sorry, you don't. Unless you are, really seeing into the future, what you're doing is you're imagining what might be. And yes, sometimes the probability of that happening is high, but it is not inevitable and it is not fact. So you must allow for the fact, recognize this as merely imagination at work. And now, in order to get yourself out of fear, imagine a positive outcome, however unlikely it might be. Just imagine it, entertain it, play with the idea, make a wish, say a prayer, but use your imagination as allow for the possibility of a different outcome to the negative one. So I guess what I'm saying is, first of all, not everyone is visual. Don't be put off. Imagine. And yes, everyone has an imagination. We are often using it in a very negative way. It's time to start using it in a positive way, because this also is what's going to change your emotional landscape, your emotional energy, which translates into operating at a higher frequency. In other words, being in a more positive state of mind. And that's good for you, for everyone around you, and hey, for the whole world.
Yeah, we'll all be smiling in a few years' time.
We'll all be smiling, indeed. Well, John, I think we've given people a lot to think about. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. And I have no doubt that you will be back, because we have lots of other things that we would love to talk about. So, but for today, I just want to say thank you for your time.
Okay, and thanks for letting me be here.